Hi, this is Dave Bundy. I'm the editor of the Journal Star, and this is the editorial board endorsement interview with Cameron Hall, who's a candidate for District 1 in the Lancaster County Commission. Cameron, thank you very much for being with us today for this interview. You're going to do all the talking in a minute, but before that, we'll have Kent do a little bit of talking just so we know why he's on this Zoom call with us. Go ahead, Kent.
Good.
Yeah, I'm Kent Walgamout. I write about arts and entertainment for the paper, and I've been on the editorial board for more than 10 years.
Very cool. Good to meet you.
And
Yes, sir.
I'll go through a number of questions, and then right before I get to the last question, Kent will jump in with a few of his own. So first question is, Cameron, is a good way to introduce yourself to folks. It's sometimes it seems that public service is worse than a thankless job. Not only do you not get thanked, you sometimes get insulted too.
Yeah.
So why do you want to be a county commissioner? And then what experiences have you had and what attributes do you have that will make you a successful county commissioner?
So I'm running for county commissioner just to be somebody who can actually impact the county. I feel like right now we're in a little bit of a downward spiral with just some of our spending and some of our priorities. And so I'm running to change that. You know, I first got involved in politics at actually a fairly young age. I was very involved with the debate team at Lincoln Southwest, where I went to high school. And then just kind of reading up on all of the issues and understanding what affects our county, what affects our country, different things like that. And so I just feel like I can actually be a change, be somebody who can make an impact in our community. And so I'm really excited about that. And like you said, I know it's not always the easiest thing to do, to step up and put your name out there. And but I'm excited. I think that being able to make a big influence in Lancaster County is going to be great. Some of the experience that I have that I believe qualifies me for this position, as well as has taught me a lot, is just working within my family business. I actually run New Haven Builders, which is a residential construction company here in Lincoln, where we're building homes for families. So I manage, day-to-day activities, as well as accounts payable, accounts receivable. So I'm very familiar with numbers and budgeting, stuff like that. So, yeah.
All right. So what are your priorities as far as county infrastructure? And infrastructure can include, not just roads and bridges, but broadband and other elements of, the pieces that make the county run.
Sure. So infrastructure is actually a #1 priority on for my campaign. I believe right now we have some wasteful spending going on in the county, and we need to reprioritize infrastructure. Working with Pam Dingman, our current county engineer, to make sure that she has what she needs to get our roads and bridges back open. I think right now the number is close to 25 as far as bridges that are in the critical category. And I feel like we've neglected to give the proper amount of money, prioritizing that as a budget item. And so working with her to make sure we understand the needs of the county to bring those bridges back up into good standing, and figuring out a plan for success into the future, not only just spending the money to get them back up and running, but also making sure that we regularly have maintenance to where we'll be able to keep our bridges open, keep our roads in good shape, continue to grow out into the county, paving other roads. I think that not only will help reduce the amount of money we spend in the future, but if we can get them back up to par now and continue to focus on maintenance, that'll not only benefit the county, keep us more safe on our roads and bridges, but also just make it a nicer place to live here in Lancaster County.
All right. There's a concern, particularly in the part of Lincoln, about being, about sustainable and renewable energy. Out in the county, there's often controversy about wind farms, about solar fields, particularly from neighbors who are concerned about zoning changes and about, the commercial use of land near them. How do you, where do you stand? How do you balance those two? Do you side one more with another? How do you navigate that conflict?
Sure. So I like the idea of renewable energy. I just think that the research and development piece of that, it's such a new technology that is not quite up to par with what we need for it to be impactful into the future. I don't feel like we have done enough research, and we haven't done quite enough to understand how this is going to impact our county as a whole. I think that wind and solar are great ideas, great concepts, and we have a lot of space across the state that we could put these types of farms or plants, whatever you want to call them. But in Lancaster County, I think we need to be focused on using our land to continue to grow, working with the infrastructure, paving more roads, building new developments, bringing more people in. Is more of a priority to me than using the minimal available land we have in the county to bring in the wind and solar energy farms. So that's actually a big contrast point between me and my opponent. My opponent's received over $40,000 in PAC money from special interests with wind and solar. And so that's made the campaign a little bit difficult just with the vast amount of money he's gotten, and then has put these farms out in the rural parts of the county, which are District 3 mostly. And people are upset about it. And so I want to protect not only the property rights of the homeowners, but also make sure that we're focusing on growth of the county, bringing more people in to continue to make Lancaster County a better place, not only for special interest groups, but for the citizens of Lancaster County.
All right, the country is divided, the state's divided, Lancaster County is divided. There are loud folks on both sides of the political spectrum. Just a lot of political polarization. How do you represent everybody, or do you even try when you've got such a wide gap between the extremes?
So my campaign is focusing on public safety, infrastructure, and being more fiscally responsible with our tax dollars and with the hard-earned money of the citizens here. And I think that those are very common issues for everybody. I don't think that's Republican or Democrat. I think making sure we maintain our roads and bridges, making sure that we have enough funding for our sheriff's department to continue to keep us safe and keep Lancaster County a nice place to live, as well as using a more business focused mindset on how we spend dollars, making sure that we're responsible with those dollars and we don't waste any of the hard-earned money that our citizens are currently working for. And so I think that I can be a voice for everybody, not just the far right or far left. I feel like my key campaign pillars are very, very beneficial to everybody, not just one side or the other.
All right, well, that you kind of did double duty with that answer, because I was going to ask about your priorities, but you laid them out there as public safety, infrastructure, and fiscal responsibility. So we're going to come back to my final question here after we do the Kent detour. So Kent, fire away.
Lincoln is in the process of trying to find a second water supply. What role should the county have in that, or should it cooperate? Should it be part of it at all?
I think that the county can be a good voice in where we can start looking at if it needs to be within the county. But partnering with state leadership and just Lincoln leadership to help identify these places and figure out the process of getting the water here. I think that that's something that I'd like to be involved in those discussions. I haven't done a lot of research on that. Particularly, but is something that I would absolutely be open to listening to different people's opinions and listening to the experts to where they think what we need. Yeah.
As you know, the county board doesn't really have any direct control over the day-to-day operations of the various agencies, the county attorney or public defender or treasure, any of those, but you can have some impact on those agencies through the budget. Are there some budgetary priorities for any of the agencies? So to say, I want to put money in the budget for more attorneys for the county attorney or public defender, or more sheriff's deputies, or more gravel for the engineer. Are there some priorities that you have identified there?
Yeah, so infrastructure is the major priority when it comes to that, as well as the public safety aspect, working with Sheriff Terry Wagner to make sure that he has what he needs, whether that's recruiting, hiring, retaining employees, or retaining, sheriff's deputies to continue to keep us safe. I think that working with those department heads to understand why they need the amount of money that they need, and also I don't want to expand the budget by 4% or anything crazy like that. I think that the number is 2% for growth over the next year, each cycle. 2% is a really good number. I think that's been a successful number for my business and for what we've seen. So trying to keep our growth at that level without having to expand on the levy or increase the levy, different things like that. So just identifying that with those people, with the department heads to understand why they need what they need is something that I'd be very interested in hearing. But the first things that come to mind are obviously infrastructure and the sheriff's department.
And the opposite side of that coin, you've said a few times that you see wasteful spending. Have you identified anything that you think should be cut, or you would try to cut in the budgets to rein that in?
Yeah, so as in every business, I mean, there is wasteful spending. I think something that immediately comes to mind, it just recently went through the county board. We have different department heads that have been using rental cars, and they bring their cars back with empty tanks of gas. So we're paying $15 a gallon on empty rental cars when they get dropped back off at the rental facility, or upgrading our tickets to first class when we could be flying coach. I mean, I know that those are smaller dollar amount items, but they all add up, and finding just different things like that. I mean, I found that within an hour of just looking through the last couple of meetings at the county board, and those things being, in my opinion, I mean, that's upgrading your ticket to first class on the taxpayer's dollar, in my opinion, is an absolute waste of taxpayer money. So it's just finding things like that, whether that's restructuring how we work with our partners at the county, if it's renegotiating contracts to cheapen the price of the services that they may provide for us. I've done that. I do that every day within my business. I work with different subcontractors to whittle the price down, but for the same service. I mean, you have to open the market to competing bids. And I think that managing that is a good way to eliminate wasteful spending. Also, another in my opinion, huge waste of taxpayer money was the county board voted to increase their own salary by 16.5%. I think that that is unnecessary. That is just more money that we're going to have to pay out, yes, to the county board, but I wouldn't have voted for something like that. I would have preferred to use that money to dedicate towards infrastructure or dedicate towards the sheriff's office. So different things like that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, Cameron, we're off to the final question, which is, what didn't we ask you about that you wish we had?
Yes, that is an open-ended question. I think that just you didn't ask me a whole lot about the differences between me and my opponent and the way we think. I'd like to really put it out there, that my opponent from the stand is a self-proclaimed socialist. I think that is a far left.
Cameron, before you go too far down that road, these interviews are generally about you. You're,
Sure.
So, and you're, we try not to engage
Sure.
too much in kind of attacking back and forth. So, I just a word of caution.
So with that, you asked about how I could represent both parties in this country or this county. And I think that that's the number one point for me. I am for everybody. I'm not just for Republicans or just for Democrats. I want to be a voice for all the people, not only one side, working to protect your pocketbooks at the end of the day. Another thing that I think that I'd like to touch on is, we have seen the levy be reduced. And so that's a point. You see that more typically in election years, but the taxpayers are still paying more money because we see the property valuations going up higher than the levies being reduced. And so one of my top priorities in order to protect the taxpayer's pocketbook is reducing the levy by the amount that the home evaluations go up. So people are actually saving money or having less of a tax burden and not seeing that increase year after year like they have for the last 4 years. I did touch a little bit about the pay increase. I think that was extremely irresponsible from the county board's decision. We were in a time of a pandemic where people were struggling to make ends meet, and we needed to protect the taxpayers and protect their investments rather than spend more money by giving us a raise. So.
All right. Well, with that, Cameron, you got anything else that you want to close with?
I would just appreciate everybody's support and their vote. I look forward to being your next county commissioner and working with everybody. So.
All right. Well, Cameron, thank you a bunch for your time today. We appreciate your answers, and we wish you the best with your campaign.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.